keep California cowgirls from vanishing.
Welcome to the Urban Cowgirl Show, training our horses and miniature cows in ranch versatility. Penning Rusty and Susie, our bull and heifer. Roping Rusty with Morgan horse, Semi. Training Eve to work over her haunches with a motor cow simulator. Training Eve on a cow roping simulator.
Sadie practices over the haunches with an ATV mechanical cow simulator.
Pulling slack. And Susie's coming my way because she feels the pressure behind her horns.
This is part 2 of fitting harness tack for farming with horses.
Sadie getting that harness that I bought for her to fit. There's going to be hole adjustments and so forth. We put in a bit that I had. It's a broken snaffle in the mouth and has a chain, but you see the harness leather needs some more holes. So for today's session we're just going to take the whole bridle off and work with the rest of the harness, putting the pieces on, figuring out where we need to make holes. Probably won't get to actually ground driving her on the nearby driveway here today, but one small step at a time. We had no problems at all putting this tack back on her. And remember that this is the overcheck, which when we put the surcingle on, you will see there will be a place for the overcheck to hook to the surcingle, and I'll point to it. Because for now we're just going to take the whole bridle off. It's all right. Here's the neck strap. I'm going to undo the noseband. I'm just showing you every single step here because, you know, this is a new bridle, but the leather's stiff in places. Things don't fit quite right. So this tacking session, very, very important. These tack fit sessions are very, very important. There we go. Okay, the bridle is off. And now, the next big piece of tack is here on a portable saddle holder. Once we get this fitted to Sadie, and when we have to do the same thing with Eve's tack, we're going to keep everything separated so that we never have to fit again unless they change weights, so that we'll know that all the holes are appropriately adjusted and installed. Okay, so Katie is going to put this surcingle on. Let her know, let her investigate, so she's not afraid of it. She's had saddles on, she's had surcingles on, but it's been a while for the surcingles, and this is a new smell, a new feel.
So how does this connect? Does it connect here?
Let's see.
That's what I was confused
now
about.
these, right, yes. This is going to be like this. This is the belly band. This is the first time I've put this on too, so just from my experience with prior harnesses, I'm going to try to figure this puzzle out. These are used when you're actually setting up to pull.
Okay.
So this is just a belly band similar to a cinch. Now remember, we got this description, illustration, names of parts from the vendor, and we keep it nearby because we want to try to learn the right names for every part as we go. Some of which I already know. Collar, hames, surcingle, and of course bridle with blinders. You notice how Katie always touches Sadie on her rump as she walks behind always touches her or lets her know so that there's no startling. We may have to make more holes, we'll see. It doesn't have to be as tight as a saddle, but it does have to be tight enough that if a horse reaches with this back leg, it's not going to get it stuck in the surcingle, because that would be very stressful and dangerous. And Katie, can you tell us what your struggle is? It's just because it's...
Yeah, there's just a few loops to go through is all.
Okay, all right. So pick up these straps and let's get them out of the way, because needless to say, if she were to step in one of them, she would be quite concerned. So the way I think I want to get it out of the way for now, hold on to this and the other one. I'm just going to try to get some clips. I buy these clasps by the dozens. They're so handy. Okay, next piece. So the surcingle is on. It's padded. The next hard part will probably, yes, it will definitely be the britchen. So while I go in and find it, I am going to turn off the camera. Okay, now we're going to try to put the breeching on. We figured out, we were studying this list, that when you have a collar, of course you don't have a breast collar, so that's why we couldn't find a breast collar in the Tack. But we're embarrassed to say we have the collar on upside down. So we did turn it right side up. We're pretty sure we had it upside down. We're not positive yet because we don't have the whole thing together, and unfortunately on the sketch there was no collar listed. The collar was a separate item that came with the package. So okay, now we're going to try to put the breeching on, but from my experience with Sadie, she doesn't like straps on her back legs. So we're doing this very, very carefully. The breeching, right? Yes, not too far down. Yeah, let's just keep it light. It's on her hips now, and it has straps hanging from it, but they're not tickling her on her legs. This piece here with the Y straps was separate, and we were able to put the puzzle together. I believe this is the shaft holders if you have shafts, and then this is the tug holder, I believe. I'm not sure yet. Not until we have the whole picture here, everything together, will all of these pieces fall together for me in my mind, because I have driven cart for years, but with different tack. Okay, one more thing.
Good girl.
For today is, again, not actually put on, but just show you how it will fit on, is the crupper, which, you know, I take it back.
Oh, this is supposed to go on the back?
Yes. That ring is not for the overcheck, it's for the crupper. So let's take the britchen off. I'm very carefully going to slide it off. Hope that she doesn't mind. Yeah, she's okay on it. We're showing you every step of the way here. That ring in the back was not for the overcheck. I'm not sure yet where the overcheck goes. We'll figure that out when we get the bridle adjusted, maybe in the next session. We'll have extra holes in it by then. We need a place to put this crupper strap, and the crupper itself goes under the tail. All of this working around Sadie is very good with all these this tack and straps, because it's going to make it less ominous for her each time we put it on, and she doesn't get scared. And look at her, she's very calm right now, almost asleep. I would say basically asleep, even though her eyeballs are a little bit open. But you know, anything can spook a horse anytime, so always be aware. Try to stay out of strike zone, spook zone. Okay, now let's put this back on, Katie. You know, it's from my experience, years of experience driving cart, all of this becomes second nature, just like putting a saddle on. But right now it's a puzzle for us. There you go. Okay, now that's going to go down over the hips. And this, Katie, you want to come get it? New and a little bit stiff. It's going to go into that ring. Got a lot of keepers. And then when you take something out of a keeper, make sure you know how to put it back in. Always think ahead. It's like when you're cleaning a saddle. Make sure if you take something apart, you look at it so you know how to put it back together again. There you go. Okay, let's put that on, and we're going to leave it on if there's no reason not to, and I think there's no reason not to, because the crupper has 2 buckles. Unbuckle the one closest to you in your right hand there.
This one?
Yeah. And then the, oh, I was going to say the other one, but that's okay. So go to the other side. And I did this with Eve. I think I have it on the video where we fitted Eve with her collar and bridle. I did this with Eve and she was fine. And I think Sadie will be too, but you know, this is a challenging step. So Katie's going to go to the right rear of Sadie. And she's going to lift up Sadie's tail. And while she's staying out of strike zone in case Sadie gets upset, while she does that, it's all right, Sadie. There you go. See, I am going to take this crupper.
Easy.
It's all right. That swishing of the tail is stress. So I don't know if I'm going to do that all in today's session, but I could take the crupper and put it under the tail.
Easy.
Can you put your hand under the tail so she feels something there without getting stuck? If a horse is not comfortable with something under the tail, like a lariat that accidentally lands back there, they'll clamp down and it can be very dangerous.
Easy.
Do you feel it? How hard it is?
Yeah, she feels me though.
Yeah, that's good, good. We're desensitizing her to that feeling of something under her tail.
Good girl.
Her right leg is cocked, so I'm feeling that the left rear is okay. Okay, now I could put this around the tail underneath, keeping the buckle covered if I can, because I don't want any hairs getting stuck in the buckle. You okay on that? Mm-hmm. As our next and maybe final step today? Mm-hmm. Not buckling it, just keep your hand on the buckle. Okay. And just pull it a little bit, don't buckle it. There you go. Okay. All right. That's a good place to stop. We're, I'd say, about 3/4 of the way through getting this harness fitted to Sadie. And that's all for today. Next session with Sadie. We now have exactly the same harness pieces on as we put on last time. We have fitted the bridle so that the bit sits nice in her mouth. The chain's a little long, but we can shorten that or get a shorter one. We have put the tug straps on. Katie, will you point to them? Yeah, they buckled nicely into the buckles that came down from the neck collar. And you can put those tug straps back on her back. For now, they're just setting on her back, but eventually they'll go all the way back to the single tree and what we're pulling. We did get the crupper on. She kicked up a little bit, but you can see she's okay on standing with it. And Katie has in her hands the reins that show us how they will connect. Okay, so there's a buckle there that connects to the bit, and the reins are nice and long. We'll go back to way behind the horse so that as you're pulling, whether it be from the ground or with a forecart, which I'm also trying to build, by the way, and I'll be trying to show you the process, we're almost ready to pull with Sadie. And the reason I say almost is because we're going to do this one more time with her. Make sure that she accepts all of the parts without resistance, and then walk her up and down the driveway to make sure that she's okay on all of these pieces, hanging on her, buckled to her, cinched up to her, touching her body every which way they touch. But at least you can see here we even have the britchen. She's got some stress on the back of her leg, but she's okay on it. Okay, and we're going to figure out what the next step is after that to actually have Sadie do some farming for us and with us. And that's all for today.
Now we show Eve fully harnessed and then ground driving.
Well, here's the whole picture. Eve is completely harnessed up with all our harness parts, starting with from the head, and Ashley's going to point to help you zero in because there's a lot of straps. There's a bridle with blinders, and we just took a bit that we've used in the past for other reasons. It's a snaffle copper bit. Okay, then there is the collar, and the collar is, instead of a breast collar, it is a neck collar, and it's really good for pulling, much better than a breast collar, which is usually used like with a wheeled cart. Then there are a bunch of straps. Now the overcheck, which keeps the horse from pulling their head down too far, is attached to a very pretty connector that we bolted into the saddle. Let's point to the saddle. It's called a saddle. It's really a surcingle. Okay, and it also has rings on it, which we screwed in for the reins. Let's show the reins. There you go. Okay, and we're going to use those reins to ground drive Eve just briefly. Now, falling on the side of the saddle is some straps that hold the shafts or anything that you might want to be pulling. Right, and Ashley's pointing to that right now. Oh, because we don't want a lot of straps to be hanging all over the place right now and dealing with maybe stress due to feeling unusual straps, we have tied everything up. So in so doing, it kind of hides the picture, but I'm going to point to it. Ashley's going to point from the collar all the way back to that ring. That's it, is the pulling tugs. Okay, and we just have them pulled out of the way right now. And if they were attached to something we're pulling, they would be not hanging around and causing stress. And then for the time being, we took the buckle straps just above the tugs, and we connected them to the surcingle so they wouldn't be hanging by Eve's back legs. Do you want to point to that? The thin straps down right in front of the, you're almost there, keep going, there you go, that's it, yeah. That strap, that thin strap with buckles, usually hangs down, and you can use it to connect to something like cart shafts or some kind of pulling object. We have the britchen on. We have the crupper on. Can you point to the crupper? It's under her tail. Crupper goes all the way under her tail. And let's see, Katie put the crupper on. Katie, was there any problem getting crupper on it? No problem. Okay. Now, behind Katie is my training ABS log. And it's got chains and quick releases and so forth. We're not going to actually pull today, but when we are ready to start training for pulling, which all my horses have done, but it's been a while, so we're going to kind of start over. We're going to be pulling that ABS log, which is big, but not real heavy. And next to it is my ABS single tree. And you'll learn what that's all about as we start pulling, because we'll start by putting the single tree behind the horse, connecting the probably the tug straps to it, picking it up off the ground, asking Eve to step up, and at first we'll just use our own body weight to give her something to pull with that single tree, which has a bunch of chains and through bolts. So it's very strong, but again, ABS a very lightweight. Okay, now we're going to, I'm going to have Katie do it. I think you probably, have you ever ground driven before, Katie? No. Okay, but this is even, we trust her in every respect. Okay, so we're going to go all the way back out of strike zone with the reins that Katie is now pulling away from Eve. And those reins go through the rings on the surcingle, through the rings on the collar, to the bit. And we're going to walk up and down the driveway because we want to make sure that all of these straps are not freaking out Eve as she moves. It's one thing to stand there, and it's another thing to move with them. Kind of like putting on a saddle for the first time on a horse. You might be able to get the saddle on without getting any bucking, but if you're not real careful, you might have trouble when you try to move with the saddle on. And the horse feels the cinch. But you can see that Eve is having no problem. I'm going to very quietly move over here so that the camera's not in the sun. She's having no problem at all moving with all of those straps on, with that pulling harness on. Ashley, as you go by, swing over and get the drive whip and give it to Katie. And Katie, you're just going to want to touch her on the hip when you ask for a step up. Because it's going to be a very subtle cue if we need it. We're not whipping her, we're just touching her. It's a cue. Beautiful. Now, if you're going to ask her to G, which is step up and go a little bit to the right, touch her on the right hip, and she'll associate that touch with that request. This is my obstacles course here, and it looks like Eve almost ran into an obstacle. We're going to have to get those G and Ha commands refreshed as soon as possible. Ha means go to the left, G means go to the right. And we also just tug a little bit with the rein on the side that you're asking for. I'm going to go get the single tree, planks a little bit, put it down. Here's the tug strap. Connected to a quick release. We try to use quick releases in many different places in case we have a spooking horse. Now you do that to the other side as well. Then you get the horse desensitized to the sound of having something behind them clanking or even running on the ground. But at first you just hold it up and walk with the horse, staying out of strike zone, of course. And once the horse gets used to having the single tree behind him, we take that ABS log or some other real log or a farm implement, and we attach it to the chains that are on the other side of the single tree. And that's when the horse really starts to do some work. But we have quite a few lessons to do before we get to that point. But we're going to show you in many shows, the next season of Urban Cowgirl shows, how we train and use our horses and our miniature zebu cattle for farming. You know, the job isn't done until you've taken the tack off. And there's a lot of tack. So you want to keep it organized. We keep Eve's tack in one area in our cart and harness shed, and Sadie's tack in another because they're fitted for different size horses. Now right now, we're rolling up the reins. And Ashley is taking off the bridle. Carefully, okay, just like you do if you're working with a riding horse. We have those rafter hangers there on the fence nearby, keeping everything organized, keeping it from getting knotted up. Now we're going to loosen a buckle here to release the tugs, which we had temporarily tied up there. Some of these pieces of tack are a little bit more challenging than others. Like the collar, for example, doesn't have a way to open it. So we have to put it over the horse's head. Luckily, Eve and Sadie are okay on it. So we haven't had to deal with fear of having that collar go over their ears and over their head. But if we did, we'd just do desensitization, repetition, and so forth. And if you are worried about that, make sure you get a collar that has a buckle so that you can open it and remove it from the neck without going over the ears and the eyes and the nose. Keeping in mind that the crupper is quite a sensitive item, Katie's going to very carefully remove the crupper, making sure that the tail hairs don't get caught on the buckles. Then she's going to loosen some of the other straps that we tied up so that they wouldn't be hanging loose and causing any kind of stress on the back legs. But you can see Eve is not stressed at all. As a matter of fact, Eve is the first horse I ever taught to pull. Okay, the britchen was just slid off the hips, and now the saddle or the surcingle is going to be removed, similar to the way a riding saddle is. And we have a saddle rack, one of those portable saddle racks for the saddle.
Our cast of characters: Sadie and Eve, Sammy, Rusty, and Susie. Heifer calf Sela. For more information, www.cowgirlchannel.com.